Yeah, we can start with the session today. In case of any questions, just ping. Okay. Yesterday we came across architecture of OBIEE 11G and different components which are involved. So today we will just see how to handle with each component and how we should start and stop the components of OBIEE, and we will just have a brief idea on repository. Okay. So today's session will be a repository basics. So and different layers which are present in our repository, and how we should connect to database and import our metadata into RPD so that our BI server will successfully communicate to database, and it will generate dynamic sequence and give us the results. Okay. So yesterday we came across architecture, where architecture includes clients, presentation services component, BI server component, and we have data sources, and we have our RPD file, which will help BI server to generate queries. Okay. So we will just see how RPD is deployed, how RPD is the different components present in RPD, and the architecture and how to start and stop BI services. So now it will be like a grim, just don't go, you can slowly understand what exactly I am telling. So yesterday we had some idea how to start services using enterprise manager. So we have our OBIEE 11G installed here. So before, when you want to open our console or EM, we have to start our BI services. Okay. So we have to go to the install folder and click on start BI services. So this will start BI services for us. So as we discussed, we have something called WebLogic domain, and here we have Java components, and we have system components. So Java components include our admin server, and our BA server, and our system components includes OPMN components. So we will see how each server can be started and how each component can be controlled. So to start our admin server and BA server, the Java components, we have to first start our BA services. So that is the reason why I am starting BA services here. So start BA services in progress. And how we can confirm that our admin server is up and running. Okay. So for this, as we discussed, we have URL like http hostname column default port is 7001 / console. So if you can access this URL, that means that our admin server is up and running. So you can see all the servers and deployments with respect to a particular application. And if you want to see enterprise manager where you can control all your components, your enterprise manager should be up and running. For the same thing, you can just append it with EM. So console will open admin server console and EM will open the enterprise manager. Okay. So we'll just see if the services started. Okay, still it is in progress, it takes some time. So if we are not starting BI services, we cannot access enterprise manager or admin console. So that is the reason we are starting our components here. So as we said, let me check with HTTP. See, this is my console and my console is up and running. Okay. So we'll just see what are all the components present in console. As we can see, there is something called environment, and this will have the list of server information. So here we will have admin server and BA server, where and you also have something called security realms, where you can configure user and group information. Okay. And you have deployments. This describes which application is deployed to use. So we have something called Analytics 11.1.1. So this is the application what we currently use. And so admin server is mainly used to control your admin server as well as your BA server. Okay, you can start and stop. Once you make lock and edit, you can start and stop these services. You can go to control, and when you select it, you can shut down this server and you can start the servers again. So to start and stop your admin server, you use your console. Okay. And what does enterprise manager has? So as we have in architecture, we have something called system components. All your system components are managed using your enterprise manager. So that is, we will see how the components are present. when we log into EM, so this is our enterprise manager, and we have something called core application. So this application will have all the components related to it, and we can start and stop each component. And when we start and stop, that affects our logging into the application, and that affects the formulation of queries also. So as we discussed, we have different components like presentation services component, BA server component, schedulers, cluster controllers, and Java host. Okay, we need not to worry about S-based agents because we don't use them. Okay, now, so what is presentation services? Presentation services is nothing but it acts as a framework for displaying our business intelligence data to users. Okay, and what is the use of Oracle BI server? BI server, it acts as the mediator between data sources and our presentation services. It generates dynamic SQLs and gets data from data sources. Okay, and BI scheduler, it is used to send emails to users. And yeah, so these are the main components which are used daily for our reporting purpose. Okay, so just keep in mind that console is used to control the servers, and EM is used to control the instance, like the components of each application. So we will see how to use these components for deploying our RPD and for making our application up and running. Okay. Before that, we will just start with our repository basics so that we can continue with this session in parallel. Okay. So this is the architecture that we were speaking about. Client will request for information from data sources. So Oracle BA server will handle it, and it will generate SQL, and it will give back data to client, and in between presentation server is involved. So as we just discussed, what exactly is Oracle BA presentation services? It provides a framework and interface that for the presentation of business intelligence data to web clients. Okay, and there is something called analysis editor and dashboards. So what is analysis editor? Analysis editor is nothing but an user can build ad hoc reports or ad hoc analysis, or he can view results whatever he wants using analysis editor. And dashboards is the place where you save all your reports. Okay, it has a number of pages and you can save all your reports. Okay, let me show an example what exactly a client is and how presentation services comes into picture. So suppose if I want to open my application, my analytics application. So this is the application. Like we used the URLs to open console and enterprise manager. The same we have one more URL to open application, that is HTTP host name column 9704/analytics. So this will open our analytics application, and using this URL, any user can generate ad hoc analysis. Okay. So let me open this application. So this is the application login screen. When any user wants to log into the screen, he can just access this URL and he can log in. Suppose now we will see the importance of Oracle BI presentation services component. Now when I go to EM and let us see what happens. I am stopping BA presentation service. You can just click on that and you can use stop selected, and when you stop it, it takes some time to stop, and we will see how it affects. Okay. So there is a message saying stop selected completed successfully. So the component that we selected has been stopped successfully, and we will see how it impacts. Now the same URL http hostname/analytics. Can we see the error message? It gives 500 internal server error, because this clearly says that our presentation services component is down. So when the presentation services component is down, none of the clients can access analytics application. Okay. So presentation services component, it acts as a framework. So that is what the PPT says. So it acts as a framework and interface for presentation of business intelligence data to web clients. So if any client is requesting for data, obviously presentation services component should be up and running. So for this, we will start the component again. See, there are a lot of options like start all. You can start all the component at once. You can stop all the components at once. You can restart all, and individually also you can do that, like start selected, stop selected, and restart selected. Okay. So as I brought down only one of the service, I will start only that component. Okay. So presentation services component is started successfully. When we access analytics application again, we should be able to see the login screen. Okay. So let us see what a report and what a dashboard is. We log into the application using user ID password. So there is something called dashboards, and you have different dashboards here under your webcam. So let me go to mobile dashboard. Okay. So you can have n number of dashboards that can be viewed. So under mobile is a dashboard name. Under mobile, you have different dashboard pages. So dashboard is a place where you put all your reports and display it to you. Okay. Okay. You should have Flash Player installed to view any graph or any chart. Okay. So that's the reason it is not installing the plugin. Now it is installing the plugin. Once it is installed, you can even look at graphs. Okay. So this is called a dashboard, and this is a dashboard page where you put all your reports under it, and you can display them to your users. Okay. This is just an idea on client and presentation services component. Okay. So we can just proceed with our next component. So Oracle BI server component. So this is the core component of our analytics application. Okay. What does Oracle BI server do? It uses metadata to direct processing, and it generates an SQL. So what does this metadata, how does it get metadata information from? Then, as we discussed, there is something called RPD.RPD file or repository. Our repository will have the metadata about database objects. A repository will have metadata about all the database objects that we use and structured results to satisfy requests. So what does it mean? When I create some analysis, suppose when I create some ad hoc analysis, it gives me results per year and product. So what your Oracle BI presentation server can only display data, and it can only bring up or bring down your application. That's it. But when you want to see the actual results, what happens in the backend? The BI presentation server requests for the results from BI server. BI server generates dynamic SQL using the repository file, and the repository will get information from database, and it will display all the results in your application. So we will see how how repository file plays a crucial role in getting the results, and how each layer in repository impacts creating analysis. Okay. So what are data sources? Data sources may be like OLAP sources, or it may be your flat files, or it may be multi-dimensional data sources. Many things. Like there are different types of data sources where you get data from, and all those things can be configured in RPD or repository. So what is an Oracle BI repository? What does BI repository store, and what is an RPD file? So generally your RPD file is mainly used by your Oracle BI server, and Oracle BI server will know how to generate the dynamic SQL or the dynamic queries. When as soon as I created new analysis in my application, what does BI server do? So BI server should be able to, otherwise to get the same information, what I should do? We should write a query manually, like select year, product from year, product table, where year dot the primary key of year table is equal to prod dot some primary. Okay, so we should write this query manually. So, but here we are not writing any query to fetch the results. What we are doing, we are directly just pulling these two columns into criteria tab, and when I click on results, it immediately displays the results. So for each year, the different types of products that are present is displayed. Okay. So what is happening in the backend? So the backend, the query will be generated by our Oracle BI server component. Okay. So for Oracle BI server component to generate a successful query, our RPD or the repository should be properly designed. Okay. So we just have a small theory here. Oracle BI repository stores metadata used by Oracle BI server, and it is accessed and configured by using Oracle BI administration tool, which is used to import metadata from databases and simply reorganize the metadata into business model and structure the business model for presentation to users. We will see how each is configured in our repository. Okay. So what is Oracle BI administration tool? So as a developer, when you have an access to the server box where your application is installed, there you have something called BI administration. So our Oracle Business Intelligence have something called BI administration. So this is the administration tool that we are speaking about. So this is the administration tool which is used to configure your repository, or which is used to make changes to your repository. There is something called file. You can create a new repository, or even you can open a file in offline, like .rpd file. You can open it offline, or you can even open it in online for editing your repository layers. Okay. So this is BI administration. So after now let us open a file in offline mode. Okay. So here you can see three layers, namely physical layer, business model and mapping layer, and presentation layer. We will see there is importance for each layer in RPD. So we will see what is the importance of each layer present and how your database connectivity is done or achieved using your three layers present. Okay. So what does physical layer contain? Physical layer contains objects representing the physical data sources which Oracle BI server submits the queries. So we will see how this can be done. I'll create a new repository entirely. I am creating a new repository file as test demo. So this repository can be used. I'll just show how a database connectivity is done in physical layer. And you should use username and password for your database. So I am importing all the tables. So you can see some message saying importing. So that means your schema and all the related tables are getting imported to your RPD. Okay. See here. Now we can see all the tables which are present in my database here in my physical layer. So what the importance of physical layer is, it contains metadata about your database objects, and it may not only one data source, it may contain multiple data sources. See, as of now I have one database, so I am pulling in only one source. So even if it contains multiple data sources, we can bring them using file. There is something called import metadata. When you import metadata, you can bring it from multiple sources. You can have ODBC connectivity. So what does ODBC do? It will connect you to general data sources. So different types of data sources you can connect, and you can bring data from all the sources. And all those sources will be present in your physical layer. Okay. And it is just the first layer in your repository. So it is like whatever is there in database or whatever is there in data warehouse, and all the objects that you want to see are present in your physical layer. Okay, so the Oracle BA server component or the Oracle BA server, when making a query, will directly access these tables from database, and it makes a query against them and get the results to your client. Okay. So this is where physical layer is very, very important. And we have different objects in physical layer. Like, we will see what are the different objects. Okay. So this is called a database or a data source. So the first component is a database, and this is called connection pool. So what is the importance of connection pool? Connection pool will connect you to a corresponding database. You can have all the parameters set in a connection pool, like data source name, that is the DSN that we gave here, and a username and a password, and you have something called maximum number of connections. By default it will be 10. It tells that 10 queries can be run parallelly against a database. So if some user requests a query against this database, in parallel 10 queries can be run at a time. So if 10 users are there, or if a same user is opening 10 different types of reports, and if all the queries can be run in parallel. And this is called schema. This is a physical schema. Schema is nothing but collection of database objects. And this is a physical table. We have like sample addresses D. So this is a dimension table. Underscore D, we represent it for representing a dimension. Underscore F, generally we represent it for fact table. And here we have all these things are called tables, physical tables, and we have something called column for each table. Like we discussed in SQL classes, we have a database object called table, and for each table we have attributes or columns. So all these columns, the table along with its columns is imported. Okay. So these are the different objects in physical layer. You can edit them. When I see keys, there is no key present per table. We can create the keys. We will show how to create keys and foreign keys in repository lab. Okay. So we can just remember that there are different types of objects present in presentation layer, like data source, a connection pool, schema, physical table, and physical column. And to check the connection or the table what you imported will display data correctly, and if all and just to check your corrections are proper, there are two options called update row count and view data. When you do this, you can see data, right? So you can see the data present in a table. This means that the connections what you gave are proper. Okay. So we need not to worry, because data warehouse table will be loaded with data by ETL team or the data warehouse team. Our job is to import them into physical layer of RPD and use them to generate reports like this. So our job will start from here. Our job will start from developing a physical layer, bringing them into business model and mapping layer, and bringing them into presentation layer. So our job will start here. Tables and connections are already present and are already configured. Okay. So what does business model and mapping layer have? Business model and mapping layer is nothing but it reorganizes all your physical data objects into user view of data. Okay. So how does an viewer use? Suppose let us take an example from sample applet itself. So here you have something called sample officers tree, sample products tree, sample revenue A. So this will have the name of database object directly. Like suppose if I have some table like W customer D, the same thing will be present in presentation layer. We generally won't make any change. Suppose that just understand the difference of physical layer and presentation layer in representation. So suppose there is a table called W product D, or in our example, suppose there is something called sample underscore product D. Okay. So if there is a table which is present in database, that can be named, we will name it as products in business layer, in BMM layer. Why? Because BMM layer will always represent data or represent your metadata in users view or in business view. So that is what is explained here. The business and mapping layer is the administration tool, defines the business models of data and specifies the mappings between business model and physical layer. So you imported metadata into physical layer and you brought everything here. So how you should map it to business model and mapping layer. So this we will practice again. But you can see here there is something called time. When I go to per name week, click on this and go to query related objects. I want to see physical column corresponding to this logical column. Okay. So per name week of time dimension comes from D01 time day grain table, and the column is per name per underscore name underscore week. Now we can see the difference. So the physical column name is different, whereas the logical column name is more meaningful and it is more understandable to use. So you cannot understand much things from your physical table or physical column names, whereas you can understand same thing. You can understand many things from your business layer, because business layer always represents data in the way we want. And even here we will be doing all these changes. We will rename them as required as business requests, and we will do all these changes. Okay, we will practice it. We will practice all this. Just keep in mind that business layer is used to reorganize the physical layer data into users view form, or in like how the business views it. Okay, so that is what it is clearly named as business model and mapping layer. Okay. So next, what are the different objects present in your business model and mapping layer? So we have something called, this is called a business model. Not only this, you can rename it or you can create your own business model, because now this is a read-only mode. I opened a file in offline mode, which is already used in online. So that is the reason it is read-only for me now. Generally, I can make changes to business layer in online mode or offline. But if it is an offline mode, it should not be used in online mode. If it is used, it will be in read-only condition for you. Okay, that's fine. So you can rename it however you want, and you can have not only one, you can have multiple business models in your BMM layer. Not only one, you can have n number of business models, and each business model can be built from multiple data sources. So this is a data source, this is a data source. There are two different data sources here. You can bring data into a single business model from multiple data sources, but you cannot create. Yeah, that I'll tell you again. One more, there is one more constraint. But now we will discuss about the objects present in business model. That is, one is, this is called a business model. You can see these are called logical dimensions. So when you see time, there are multiple hierarchies present under time. Like you have year, and you have half year, and you have quarter, and in each quarter you have month, and in each month you have week, and in week you have day. So this is called a logical dimension table. Not logical dimension table. This is called a logical dimension or logical hierarchy. Okay. And you have something called D1 products. Okay. Here you can call it as logical dimension table. So this is a table. This is a dimension of the table. So for D1, D0 time table, for time table we have time hierarchy. And for products table, we have products hierarchy. Generally, for each dimension table, we will have some hierarchies. And it is not a rule like each and every dimension should have a hierarchy. Most of the dimensions will have hierarchies. Suppose say a product table or position dimension, you will have position dimension like manager, sales representative, regional manager, sales representative, and like this. So hierarchy exists under each dimension table most of the time. Okay. You can see the same thing like offices is a dimension table, but offices, even offices have something like total offices and offices company. Okay, even offices have some hierarchy. Okay, so most of the times you will have hierarchies for each logical dimension table. Okay. So these are called logical dimensions, and these are called logical dimension tables. Just remember all the terms that we speak now, because we will start with our practice in next session itself. So remember all the terms, and remember that this is an RPD, and remember how to open this using BI administration tool, and how BI server actually uses it. We will have the next coming sessions to create an entirely new repository, and we can use it for our report. Okay, and that is this is called a logical dimension table, and we have something called logical table source. So we have something called sources, and we have something called LTS1 product. So this is called logical table source. So this logical table source will correspond to, you can go to query related objects, physical table. When you go to physical table, this is coming from two tables. So you can see that this is coming from two tables. When you edit it, so this comes from date and product and stamp product table. Okay. And there are all the things which are highlighted here, like in yellow, these are called measures. So measures are really very, very important, because this quantifies a particular dimension. Suppose say order, we will ask how many orders. So number of orders is a measure. So for quantifying any data, you will have measures specified. You will have revenue, bill quantity, discount amount, and we will do different types of calculations on each measure. Okay, so these are the different objects which are present in our business model and mapping layer. And they are just explaining how each model or how each object in our business layer is mapped to physical layer, because finally the user can only see the data present or the content which is present in presentation layer. So how this link happens? So how the link happens from now, what we have. So now we have something called Now we have a database. We have an RPD file which has 3 layers. So this is our RPD. So this is BI sample database. So we have BI sample here. We have physical layer. We have BMM layer. We have presentation layer. So how the link happens and or how the Oracle BI server understands. This is a repository, this is a RPD, and this is used by your BI server. So how the link happens? From BI sample, first you will create connection using import metadata. So when you import metadata, so all your connections are proper. So how this step happens? Here it happens like file. There is something called import metadata. This is grayed out now because the RPD is read-only mode. Okay, that's fine. So here, after you do import metadata, give all the username, password, and connections properly to your database. You will import all your data sources like sample apply data, sample apply DB, any number of data sources. You import them. So you can see connections also here. Value of BIE home sample apply data, it is present, and you will give username, password, everything, and you will give maximum number of connections and all the parameters for your connection pool. And you will be now this will create a link to your database, and you are successfully using your database objects where you can build a report on. Okay. So you will have physical layer objects here. Okay. So how a connectivity is achieved? Now what happens? Application is here, like client is here. So what is the client? Your application, what you are using. So this, when you log in, how the flow should happen? The flow should happen to your BI server component that we discussed here. So your BI server component will show all the data your client, and where this presentation services component comes here, it comes here. Okay, this presentation server, and here comes your BI server. So your BI server, so how the link happens finally from client to your database. So there is no, you are not making any direct database request. So there is no direct link between your client and this one. So there is no such link. So what you are doing it through presentation services and BI server. You can go here to presentation. Your presentation services will get data from here, and this will go to RPD, check the RPD, and your RPD will be able to get data that you want from your database. Okay. So in RPD again, how each thing is linked. So the whatever you are looking in client, the same thing will be present in your presentation layer as subject area or presentation catalog. And here we call it as business model. And after importing your physical layer objects, you will import the required information to your business layer, and you will name them, reorganize them into meaningful way how the client wants, and into the physics presentation layer, you will only pull the required data that you want into presentation catalog. So we can see that mapping here, like, so you want to see how products information is coming into business model layer. Now, as we discussed, suppose say I want to see this product column, how it came from physical layer. So how finally it is coming from my database. So how it finally comes, how it is finally linked. So what I can do, there is something called query related objects, and you can go to different types of objects, like which presentation layer is using this, which business model column, one more column using this, and from which business, which physical layer column it is coming. Okay. So you have something called physical column, physical cube column, physical dimension, physical display folder, everything. So when I give physical column, this displays like product underscore DSC, some product description column it is coming. So product description. This product description is present in your database. You can go to your SQL editor, and when you query it, you can see that column present. Okay. We will see, for example, select star from sample product C. Okay, let us run this. So you have something called product description, this column, right? The same column is pulled into your business layer, and this is brought into your physical layer first, then it is named, and this is just an alias of your sample products table. When I click on this product, you can see this. So this is coming from sample products D table. This is an alias. We will see the importance of aliases and all this. So just keep in mind, this comes from sample products D table, product description column. Okay, and that is mapped to your products table. And you can even directly see how it is mapped. Double click on this, you will see column source. There is something called column source. There you can see where it is derived from. So there is something called D10 product, and this comes from product description. You see this, right? D10 product description. So when you click here and go to column source, the same thing you can observe it, that this is coming from this physical table and this physical column. Okay, fine. So this is how you link between your product and this one. Suppose say now you will ask me a question. How can I link? Suppose there is a new column coming in. Okay, let us pull this like this. Okay, this is read on like do. We will do it. Okay, what I can do? Click on attribute one, drag and drop on D1 products. Just drag this and drop on D1 products. That column, you can see that column here in business layer. That means that now you have successfully linked your physical layer and business layer, and your physical layer is already successfully linked with your database. Okay, fine. So this is how your mapping from business layer to physical layer is done. So we discussed about measures. Measures are nothing but it can evaluate the performance, or can those are like calculations and define measure quantities and are created. So you need not to worry much on them. Even a measure is nothing but data, normal physical data warehouse column which quantifies something. So which quantifies something, or which will give estimation on a particular dimension. So that is called measure. We will see an example of a measure. So in criteria, suppose say in year 2009, I am giving a filter. for a particular product. I want to see number of orders against each okay. For year 2009, for each product, we have different number of orders involved. Okay, we can even restrict. Suppose an install and maintenance for these products. I want to see how many number of orders are there for year 2009. Okay, you can see for install there are 10 orders. For maintenance there are 12 orders. Okay, so this is how your measure column works. This quantifies a particular dimension. Okay. So the final layer present in our RPD is presentation layer. So what is the importance of presentation layer and how it affects clients to access information? Okay. So presentation layer contains presentation objects that provide customized view of business model to users. So what does customized view mean? Customized view means that this presentation catalog will not have all the repeated information as well as any information which is not required for analysis. You can see, suppose say products dimension. When you say products dimension, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 11 columns in physical table, whereas you are only seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in your presentation layer. So you drastically brought down the attributes. You drastically brought down the columns that you want or the attributes that you want from physical layer to your presentation layer. Okay. So you will show only information which is important or which is required for user. You will not show all the information unnecessarily. So what does this presentation layer, where does this play a role? Okay. When you create new analysis, you can see something called sample sales slide and sample target slide. So the subject areas which are displayed here, which are displayed under select subject area, are coming from your presentation layer. So you have something called sample sales slide, you have something from sample target slide. So these two presentation catalogs will act as your subject areas when you create a new analysis. Okay. We will see. Suppose say I am going into sample sales slide presentation catalog, and I am opening products table and just displaying all the presentation columns that are present. It has product number, product type, LOB, and brand. The same thing should be present in my product table, which is in sample sales slide in my application also. Okay. Now this is the thing. The subject area is sample sales slide, and now I am opening products table here. You can see only 5 columns here, like product number, product type, LOB, and brand. So whatever is present in our presentation layer, the same thing will be displayed in your application also. So that is what this meant to say. And this is like more meaningful information. Generally, user don't want your primary keys, your foreign keys, or your row bits. All those information and as an analyst, I don't care. As an user, even you don't care. So no one cares about what are all the keys that you use and how joins you make. They only care about the important information. So So you need not to bring all the columns into your presentation layer. Whatever is required, you will bring it there and you can rename it there. Okay. Simplifies and organizes the business model to make it easy for users and to understand the query. Exposes only the data that is meaningful for users. So this is what the importance of presentation layer. And you can see how presentation layer mapping is involved again. So when I go to my RPD, I want to see how this product is coming from. Okay, we will see how this product is linked to physical layer, and obviously keep in mind that always your physical layer is linked with your data warehouse and you can get information. Okay, so this product, I want to see how this product is coming back from. This is very important part. Learning your repository or knowing your repository is very important, because obviously when you want to track back how your report column is coming from a data warehouse column, you should obviously knowing about repository and how you should. Suppose that you feel that product type information, you are getting information and you see some null value is coming, or you see some irrelevant information is coming in your product type. You want to see why this is happening in your data warehouse. So at least you want to confirm that your data warehouse is at least proper. Then what I do, I go to product type. Okay, the same product type should be present in my presentation layer. So I go here. From here, you can go to directly. You can go to a physical column. Otherwise, you can go to business column, and then you can go to physical column. Anything is now I will see how it is mapped to my physical column. So there is something called type, and it goes there. From this column, it is coming here, and we want to see how the same product type is present in business model and mapping layer. Logical column. Okay. So this is hierarchy. Generally, don't get anything from hierarchy. That's fine. There is something called product type in your business layer. The same type column, you renamed it as product type in business layer, and the same product type you pulled it to your presentation layer. Even your business layer also has some keys, LOB key, brand key. These keys are used to join to your other logical dimension tables or your fact table which is coming. But your presentation table layer will always avoid these keys as well. So the type column comes to product type in business layer, and the same thing is joined to presentation, and the same thing is present in your application. So this clearly says that your client can now get any information from your data warehouse using your RPD. Right? So using your RPD, this is a client where product type is present, and he is able to see product type information, and this product type information comes from your database. So how this is? This is the type column, right? We will see select distinct type from sample cells product. You see this, right? Camera, maintenance, LCD, accessories, install and done. So there are 11 records in your data warehouse, and you can see the 11 records in your application. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Fine. So this is a client, and this is a data. This is a data warehouse. So as we represented in our diagram, our client now can, with all this process, can directly get data from your data warehouse, right? Fine. Okay. Now you are successfully, all the concepts that we discussed in SQL sessions are for this purpose. So you want to understand all these BI samples, right? So for this reason, we explained all the concepts there. So all the database objects, and your client will be able to get information from it. Fine. Using your RPD and using your components, all the components like presentation server and BI server component. Okay. presentation layer defines the user interface. So that is what we discussed all the time here. So whatever is there in presentation layer, the same thing will be defined in your UI. So how it is? This is called presentation catalog, and this is called presentation table. This is called presentation column, and the same thing what we call in application here. This is called sample sales slide. What you call as presentation catalog here, like sample sales slide, is called as subject area in UI, and your presentation table is the table which is present in is a folder here in UI. It's like a folder structure. You can see folder symbol here. And whatever you call it as presentation column is a normal column in each table. Like it's a column. Okay. So that is what they are explaining in presentation. Fine. And where do you store this repository file? So we are all the time we are discussing about a repository, and repository has all metadata, and BI server uses this. So how BI server comes to know that it has to use this repository by default? See, you can have a different path as well as by default the repository is stored under middleware. See, this also you can name while installing. Not only middleware, you can give it as BI home, you can give it as anything that you want, but generally we prefer to give it as middleware because we always speak something about fusion middleware control throughout our sessions. So that is the reason I gave it as middleware. And there is something called instances. All our instances like presentation services, these are all called instances. We were discussing about all these, right? So all the system components are present under instance. Okay. So our instances, we have something called BI foundation, BI server component. Under server component, we have something called repository. So this is the repository that is being used by our application. Okay. And you can even see that where it is deployed. There is something called deployment in Enterprise Manager. You can deploy your RPD or your repository file. You can see something like sample applet BI 0001, right? So you should be very, very careful here. This will be the same RPD. Okay. The sample applet BI 0001.rpd and the thing what you deployed here. You can deploy any RPD that you want. You can create in the practice session. We will create our own RPD and we will deploy it. So how this deployment is done? You can lock and edit configuration. You can choose a file. When you choose a file, by default, you should go to that path like E drive, middleware, instances, BI foundation, server component, repository, and you can give this. Give open. Give the repository password. And click on apply. So you successfully deployed the RPD, and now you click on activate changes. When you click on activate changes, this will be picked up by your enterprise manager, and all the files like NQS config.ini. I'll show you how this works. Okay. Now activate changes. You see a successful message saying activate changes completed successfully. You deployed your RPD successfully into the application. Close it. And it is telling restart to apply the recent changes. Go to that restart tab. Go to availability. Just click restart all. I am restarting all my components. And now we will see where different files are affected. Okay. So restart all in progress. So this is how you deploy your repository file. So now just keep in mind about all the links, how the linking is done from your client to your data warehouse using RPD, the services components, and how your RPD is deployed, and how your data warehouse connections are set in your RPD. So this will help. This will help in a lot many ways when you work in real time. All these things will help you. So this is very basic, and if you are strong at this, any project or any data warehouse, all will be the same. Only few changes, like very minor, will be there, but this basics won't change. Okay, all this will remain always the same. So now, wherever we stored our RPD, this is a default path, and it's not guaranteed that always you should take repository or RPD file from this location itself. You can directly create something called a repository. You can create any folder as you want. You can create your own folder, and you can place your RPD file there, but it should be with .rpd extension. Okay. I can copy this. I can deploy even this RPD. Okay, because your enterprise manager will give chance to browse the RPD file present in your server. So from any location you can browse it, but generally that is the default path that we use. So when you click on this one, date modified, you can see that the latest RPD is sample update BI 0002.rpd. So it creates at the time, each time you deploy RPD, it appends with its own instance. Like you give like sample update also, it appends with BI 0001, BI 0002, BI 0003 in that. So this just keeps like version numbers. So even if you lose something, we can go back and deploy the previous version of RPD. Okay. So this is much more helpful when you lose backups and all. So this is not fun because all the components are still in restart phase. You can see you cannot log into your application because the components are still 500 internal server error, presentation server component is getting started. So we'll just see. So this is repository directory, and repository modes like offline mode and online mode. Offline mode, it clearly says it is not loaded into Oracle base server memory. You are doing it like a normal text file or a normal file. It is just a .rpd file, and you are making changes to .rpd file using BI administration tool in offline. That means you are having a local copy to yourself. Server will not know. You can have n number of copies, and server will not know that you are making some changes to some RPD. But if you are doing something in online mode, that means that it is present in server memory, and if a particular developer is checking out that object, no other developer can make changes to that object. And when you check in the changes are directly picked by your BI server, and the changes will take effect immediately. Okay, but making the changes in online mode is not suggested in 11G. Okay, but best approach is take a backup of RPD before making any changes. Open the RPD in offline mode, create your own copy, and deploy the RPD into the application, and then restart the services. Then that RPD will be online. Okay, now all the services are up and running. So when I log into application, now I should see the same RPD. So new analysis. So I am seeing sample sales, right? And I was telling that a file will be changed. Okay, now BA0002.RPD is the latest RPD after deployment. To confirm that, you can go to deployment and you can see default RPD as sample applet BA0002 RPD. And where does this information store? Yesterday we were discussing about configuration files used by different components, right? So we will see how it is stored. Like, first one, we have something called config. For BA server component, you have something called nqs config.ini. So now this file, the default RPD here, you can see this, right? Sample applet BA0002.RPD. This is the default RPD present in your repository in EM, as well as your nqs config.ini file, which is used by your BA server, right? So this RPD will be in online mode. Okay, you need not to change in nqs config.ini file. EM, when you activate changes, by default it makes changes to all the corresponding configuration files of BA server or the application. Okay. So using Fusion middleware control to manage BA components. So that is what we were doing all the time. So this is the enterprise manager, and you have availability. When you click on availability, business intelligence core application, when you click on availability, you have presentation services component, BA server component, scheduler component. You can start and stop each component individually, or you can start all and restart all, or stop all the components at one time. Okay, so this is how you manage your BA components. So there is something called a reload server metadata. So what happens? I will show you how this reload BA server component works. So now everything is online mode. So go to BA administration. Open your repository in online mode. Give your repository password. And provide administrator password as well. And we have products, right? Now clearly observe that your product has only 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 columns. Okay. Now go to your RPD, open sample sales slide subject area, extend this product, and now I will bring LOB key also into products. So this will ask, do you want to check out the object? Yes, I want to check out the object, so I click on checkout. So now LOB key is present in my presentation layer, and even brand key I want. So even brand key I am getting. Now this will ask, do you want to check in the changes? So you can click, and when you check in the changes, this will ask, do you want to check global consistency? This concept again I will explain. Consistency has a lot of things, like when it is not consistent. Suppose say when you don't have proper join specified, or when you don't have proper mapping between presentation layer, business layer, or when you don't have proper logical table source assigned to particular logical column. So there are many scenarios where consistency fails. So always better approach is check consistency. So there is a warning like that feature. You don't worry about warnings, because warnings are not showstoppers. Always errors are showstoppers. So need not worry about warnings. No? If it is really affecting your query, then you go and check in warnings. Otherwise, don't debug it. Just close it and save. There is some button called save here. Save the RPD. So now your RPD is saved, and this has. Now you want to see the latest changes in your UI. So what you can do? You don't want to restart any of the components. So there is something called reload server metadata. Click on reload server metadata. Okay. When I see here now you are able to see LOB key and brand key, right? So now I am not touching anything. I am not going to deployments. I am not going to availability and restarting my components. But still I am able to see the latest changes that are done in RPD file. So those things are achieved using reload server metadata. So reload server metadata, what does it do? any changes that you made in metadata or the RPD, your metadata is nothing but RPD. Those changes will be picked up in online mode. Once you make something in online mode, the changes will be picked up by your application. Okay. So this is just sample analysis processing. How, as we showed in the diagram, the same thing. This diagram, the same thing that discussing here. When the first phase, like a user views a dashboard, submits an analysis, and like BI presentation services makes a request to BI server, and third BI server will go and make a request against a database, and this one BI server receives the processed data back and it's sent to presentation services, and presentation services will send back it to client. So this is the presentation services component. This is the BI server component which is involved. If any process breaks, your client will have issues. Even if at this stage, if the connection pool is not proper in RPD, this fails. Okay, so summary. So this lesson, what we have come across. So we have identified and defined major components on Oracle, and identified and described the 3 layers of BI repository, and use of BI administration tool to explore repository features, and how to publish a repository or how to deploy a repository, and how to start and stop each BI component. Okay. So next we will start with BI, exploring Oracle BI repository. Okay. Thanks guys.